Ohio State playing host to Michigan State's become one of the best rivalries in all of college football because in part of the last three meetings back in 2012, Braxton Miller over 300 total yards. Urban Meyer's first Big Ten win coming in this series as Ohio State beat Michigan State 17-16. The Spartans would get revenge in a big way some 15 months later with the stakes so much higher at the Big Ten championship game, ending Ohio State's 24-game unbeaten streak and denying the Buckeyes a chance at the BCS national title. Michigan State would go on to beat Stanford 24-20 in the Rose Bowl, a defining moment as Mark D'Antonio continued to bring Michigan State closer to the nation's elite. In 2014, an offensive showcase in East Lansing, the teams combining for 1,100 total yards of offense, J.T. Barrett himself accounting for 5 touchdowns, 49-37, as the Buckeyes started to round into that offensive juggernaut that would eventually go on to win the national championship. Tale of the tape between these teams quite telling. Ohio State among the top 30 in points per game this season. Michigan State has fallen to 44th. The yardage per game and opponents' yardage per game both favoring the Buckeyes. As a matter of fact, almost all major statistical categories favor Ohio State. That's why Ohio State nearly a 2-touchdown favorite. Still, Urban Meyer plenty of respect for his opponent heading in to the 2015 showdown.
We've had some great games with them. A lot of respect for the way they play and their personnel because they're outstanding. We're facing the best defensive line maybe in college football and one of the best quarterbacks in Big Ten history. And someone showed me his winning record is. That's how you evaluate a quarterback, is do you win games, because that's his job, and he wins almost every game he plays.
Physically imposing, both these teams have as much talent as anybody in the country, but they take different approaches, at least mentally, throughout the course of the year. Jerry, what kind of approach does Urban Meyer have, not just for this game, but for all big games trying to reach that ultimate goal of a second straight national title?
You know, it's a reinforcement of what Urban tells his team every year. When we were there in August doing our campus show, we asked Urban about defending the national champion, maybe repeating as national champion, and he says, we don't talk about that. What we talk about is winning the Big Ten championship. That's our goal, and if we do a lot of things right, we can get to November with all of our goals in front of us. So that's reinforced this week because this is an opportunity to do just that. I do think he changes the message a little bit year by year, and I don't know for sure, but I could say maybe he's saying we've had enough distractions. We had 5 guys suspended for Virginia Tech. JT was suspended for a game. It's about time we got this thing right, and we need to be playing our best football this week and next week.
Yeah, the Buckeyes have been kind of mediocre this season by their standards, but I think they have to go into this game with supreme confidence. Just think about this. November 8, 2014. That was the date of this game last year. Michigan State was the first ranked team that Ohio State played. Michigan State was favored in the game. And what happened? Ohio State essentially dominated the final 3 quarters. So even if things turn sour early in this game, I think the Buckeyes can draw from that experience last year.
And Teddy, you know, I agree with you, and I get where you're coming from about what the momentum they built from last year. But what also worth pointing out, and again, they did it last year too, where they didn't play ranked teams until Michigan State, but Ohio State hasn't played a good or great team in almost a year now. I mean, since last postseason. So I think it's very easy to get up for it mentally, but I'm wondering physically or even, in-game mentally when you're struggling and it's tough and you're down, and you're playing a good team that's not going to throw it away. They're not going to make a mistake. I mean, this is just going to be a different environment for them. And we talk about adversity, and coaches and players love to use that phrase all the time, but I'm talking about in-game, you're playing a good team, a quarterback like Connor Cook who can keep a team in the game. I just want to see how they handle that because it's been a while since they've had to really play great to beat a good to great team.
Nicole, I understand where you're coming from. I understand some of the criticisms of Ohio State this year, but the number 30 continues to pop into my head. 30 consecutive regular season conference wins, an NCAA record for Ohio State. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, Michigan State and Mark D'Antonio, despite all the success, still battling for that respect, not just inside the Big Ten, even inside their own state. That led to a fairly entertaining and very telling moment from D'Antonio's press conference earlier this week.
We're so conditioned in this region to think Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, and for good reason. Not really.
Oh, Mark D'Antonio saying so much by saying so little. Let's be honest about it, though, Teddy. This Michigan State team plays better when they are the underdog. They play better with a chip on their shoulder. Yeah. They play better when people don't believe that they can win. And you know Mark D'Antonio is selling that right now inside the Spartan locker room.
And I'll tell you what's going to help him sell it. On Tuesday, I was at the United Center for the basketball doubleheader, and Tom Izzo could not stop talking football. And Tom Izzo's guys beat Kansas, so that could give the football-playing Spartans a little bit of a psychological boost. Now, y'all probably know Izzo and D'Antonio, they might have the closest relationship in the country among football and basketball coaches. And there's some absolute parallels there. Neither guy takes any crap. And that's what we saw from that clip from D'Antonio, and it's why Spartan fans love him.
And as good as Izzo has been against top-tier competition, D'Antonio and the Spartans 5-1 in their last 6 games against top 10 opposition. In this game specifically, Jerry, what does the Michigan State offense have to do?
Okay, the first thing I think we have to do is we have to assume that both defenses are going to be at their best this week. Maybe they haven't been at their best all season, but for this week, absolutely. So what does Michigan State have to do? Michigan State has to try to balance up their offensive attack. That's what you do against the best defenses. And you can't be one-dimensional. Michigan State has to find a way to run the ball. Do they have to run for a ton of yards? Do they have to run for more yards than they pass? I don't think so, but we've seen Michigan State win some games this year without a run game, with Connor Cook throwing for these ridiculous numbers. That might not work against the Ohio State defense because it becomes a pass rush drill, meaning that if Michigan State can't gain some yardage on 1st and 10 in the run game, they're going to get behind the down markers, and that's going to be a problem trying to protect the passer, Connor Cook. So that's what Michigan State has to do. Ohio State has the same issue. They want to balance it up, but they want to balance it up with the pass game. They need to throw the ball better. Urban said it a couple weeks ago, walking off the field after one of the games. We've got to do better in the pass game. The difference is Ohio State has a plan B. If they can't throw the ball, they can win it by running the ball only. Visualize this. You two guys close your eyes. The ball is snapped. The quarterback, JT, has the ball. He sticks it in Elliott's stomach. At the same time, Braxton Miller is coming in motion, and he may get the ball. That's a tough run offense to stop. So I think Ohio State's got plan A and B. Michigan State better make plan A work.
I cheated. I opened my eyes. How about you?
I kept them open the whole time.
I never listened to directions well.
I can't take my eyes off DiNardo.
Jerry, so you think Ohio State can win it really with a run-based offense with giving it to Zeke? The Buckeyes don't think so, or at least they weren't saying that after the Illinois game in Champaign, and that's the one you're referring to where Urban Meyer said, our pass protection was hurting here, and we could get away with it beating Illinois in Champaign 28-3 and outgaining them by about 10 times. But they think they need balance to beat Michigan State. And this is where Ohio State's line issues could bubble to the surface. The right tackle, Chase Ferris, he started as a defensive player, probably more comfortable at guard. He's been only so-so in pass pro this year. They're going to need him better to I think they're going to need to pass for 200 yards to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them want balance. Absolutely. And by balance, again, I don't mean necessarily the numbers, making each other's defense defend both the run and the pass. But I do think Ohio State, if they don't have a plan B, they have a better plan B, and that's just running the ball.
Interesting to hear Urban Meyer say Michigan State may have the best defensive line in the country. The defensive line that he watches practice every day, it's pretty darn good as well. Nicole Auerbach, final thoughts on this matchup from you?
Well, I completely agree about the passing game in Ohio State. I mean, we thought when Cardale Jones was the starter that they would just put up video game numbers and that he would just air it out all the time. And we didn't see that often. I mean, they obviously had some big passing plays with him, and JT's had a couple too. But that's what I'm looking for as well, because we've seen the run game. We know what Ezekiel Elliott can do. So I'm right with these guys. I want to see them throw the ball, and I agree with, I think it was Teddy, 200 passing yards. It's going to have a big game through the air, and that's what this team needs moving forward anyway, because they need to be balanced, especially against Michigan and moving on into the playoff if they make it.